So that's me, no gray hair yet. The founding father, but also some founding mothers here. Bilha was here, and Pilar, and Mercy Griera, who was very important. She was the project officer of the project. Yeah, and Manolis was there, and then you the founders of HiPEAC are here, and actually HiPEAC changed many of our lives, I would say, because from then on we met regularly, we became friends, we became almost a HiPEAC family. In HiPEAC, we created a roadmap, and that was something we decided already from the very first HiPEAC 1 on.
Can you put the previous one?
Yes.
Stamatis?
Stamatis is here too, yes, unfortunately. He passed away. Stamatis is here.
I had the line.
Yeah, and the worst thing that can happen to a project coordinator is that somebody of the project the partners dies, and it happens twice. So we got Stamatis and also Nacho a couple of years ago, which is very unfortunate. But Stamatis was, and Nacho was taking the picture as usual, so he is not in the picture. So we have created a roadmap from year one. Actually, Stamatis is the very first version, I would say the zeroth version, and then we took over. The first three of them were roadmaps, and then we called them a vision because there was not really a roadmap, and that learned us a lot. And if I look at the things that were important in these documents, and the very first one, it was the iPhone that was launched, and nobody of us knew what's going to happen with the iPhone and with the smartphone. And a couple of years later, there was the iPad. It's less than 10 years ago, only 8 years ago. It seems an eternity, but if we want to look into the future, 10 years is really a very long time. And then we got the WikiLeaks, and then we got cognitive computing that came up. IBM started with that. And then we got the Brexit and Trump, and then we got deep learning. So these were important topics that came up in the executive summaries. Now, there's an important thing. Here, these are positive things. We liked all this. Here we came into an era where things happened that we did not like. And maybe they were linked to computing, maybe not. And that's what I would like to talk about today. So the smartphone has dramatically changed our lives. So this is a picture of the beginning of the previous century. In the same street, now you see this. People checking their emails and their social media, and you have cars instead of horses, of course. But there's more. Psychologists have been and doctors have been investigating this, and actually this technology is changing the brains of the kids. It's wired in a different way. You put kids in a scanner and say, this kid is using technology, these kids are not using technology. The brain is wired in a different way. You know that both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates did not allow their kids to use technology. Maybe there was a reason for that. There's a book about that, The Shallows. If you want to read more about this, this is definitely a book you should read. It says if it physically changes the brains of humans. There's also many more cases now of exhaustion and burnouts. This is due to technology. According to specialists, we are 24 hours per day connected to our devices. We are constantly fighting email, for instance. And fighting is, well, not good for our body. So normally you have to rest, but we never take rest. So this is important. Also, it is also changing politics. This is not a small thing. So this is something we discovered recently with Trump and Brexit. It also has some impact on jobs. And then I hear people say, well, yeah, it destroys jobs, but it will create other jobs. That's true. But if you look at these numbers that were published a couple of years ago, these were all the jobs that were destroyed in the crisis of 2008. So the total here is 100%. So of all the jobs destroyed, 60% were mid-wage occupations, middle-class jobs. And these were the jobs that were created, I would say, 5-6 years after the crisis. And the total is again 100%. So maybe the numbers match, but you see the jobs have changed. It creates jobs, but the jobs are not the same according to this study. Some people are studying this, even at Stanford they are doing this, and it was about ethical questions, and these ethical questions were not about self-driving cars. Are they going to kill the old lady with the dog or the small kid on a bike? No. One of the ethical questions was the loss of jobs. What are we going to do with it as a community? There are also books about this topic, The Vanishing Middle Class. And this is also a very interesting picture. So let me explain. This is the median net worth of families in 2014 dollars. in the US. This is from Pew Research. And here you have the lower class jobs. So this is the small, so this is what people, this is the net wealth. So this is what they own. And here you see in 83 they owned, the median was $11,000. And then in 2007 they did better, 18,000. And then after the crisis it was only 9,000. So this is less actually. Now, if you look at middle class, 95, they went to 161, which is very good, and then they took a hit, and they are back to 1983. Now you go to the upper class, 323, 700, 650. They also took a hit, but not that much. And another thing is, if you divide the upper class jobs by the median, you got here a difference of 3.7, 4.5, and 6.6. So the gap between the rich and the middle class and the poor is increasing. The inequality is increasing, which is maybe not what we want in society. Another thing is that there is evidence that online dating is changing the nature of society. People look for partners all over the world, so to speak, and so the matches are better. So the marriages become more stable, but also less diverse. So you have well-educated people marrying with well-educated, non-educated people marrying with non-educated, which was less the case before. So this is really changing also the society and maybe also increasing diversity. It also stabilizes marriages, which is a good thing. It's not all bad. And then now we are really grown-ups. So finally we also have our own arms and weapons. So nuclear, biological, chemical, all the sciences got them now. Computer science have their own. So we have smart weapons, we have cyber weapons, we have cyber war. And if you look at the biggest cyber armies, it's amazing. If you go to the internet and some websites publish lists, the ranking of cyber armies. First one is USA. I'm not surprised. The second one is Iran. I was surprised. And guess what? These two don't like each other. We saw this recently. The third one is China. USA doesn't like China. Not the current president. The fourth one is Israel. Also involved in everything that goes on in the Middle East. Then you have North Korea. Is this a coincidence? I don't know. It's just this list. Then you got Russia. If you look at all the international conflicts today, I mean, these are maybe wars that are being fought in the cyber war at this moment, and they're trying to influence each other's elections and things like that. And then it goes on, and these are more peaceful countries, I would say. You have Canada, you have the UK, before and after Brexit too. You have Germany, you have India. I mean, isn't this surprising? This surprises me at least. So now that we also have weapons, maybe we should start thinking about ethics. In all the other sciences, there are things that you cannot do. There are chemical products that you cannot produce. There are biological techniques that you cannot use. There are, in physics, you cannot produce nuclear weapons. Is it time to also put on this kind of restrictions in computer science? Maybe yes, maybe not. I do not know, but it's worth asking the question. So ethics is about, should we do something? Maybe it can be done, but should we also do it? Yeah. So people start studying this. For instance, this is the digital ethics labs from Oxford University. Also Stanford has its own. So you see popping up digital. You have bioethics. We also have digital ethics now. So this is some kind of new trend. My conclusion of this part is that we are being cooked by this technology. So you see it changes our brain and many other things. And many things are happening that we might not like, but it's happening without us maybe knowing it. So that's one. But we do more. We're also cooking the planet. And that's my second point. So this is the carbon production, the carbon footprint of the world. It's now, well, this was 2015, but it goes up, 36 billion. And if we want to limit the temperature increase of the climate, we have still a budget of 720 billion metric tons of carbon to spend, which is exactly 20 years at that rate, at that burning rate, I would say. It's almost literally in this case. So we can go like this for 20 years and then we go back to zero, which is of course not very, doesn't make sense. So we have the Paris Accord, so they made some smooth transition, so okay, from now on we should go down. And this graph shows, the blue one, that we have to reduce the carbon emissions by 40% every decade from now on. Low-hanging fruit has gone, so now it's more the hard work that needs to be done. That's 3.5% per year, what we have to do for the next 30, 40 years. It even goes negative, and here I think we can extract carbon from the air. I think that's the meaning of this picture. Now, did anybody read this book? This is a book for scientists about, yeah, one person. Okay, good. When I read this book, everything became clear to me, and I'm going to explain you what it does. This is a very interesting, you cannot see it at the back of the room, I think, but this is a very interesting graph. This is all the countries of many countries of the world. This is the population density per square meter, and this is the power consumption per person per day expressed in kilowatt hours. So that's energy. And so there is one country here, let's see, here, United Kingdom. Is there somebody from the United Kingdom? Yeah, Mike. Mike is from the United Kingdom. Good. United Kingdom has something like 250 people per square kilometer, and a person in United Kingdom consumes something like 120 kilowatt hours per day for energy. Now we're going to do a small exercise. So 250 persons per square kilometer, which means, Mike, that you have 4,000 square millimeters just for you. Not for your family, just for you. What's the size of 4,000 square meter? That's half of a soccer field. So this is your part. That's your part. And now the challenge is, can I produce all the energy that I need, that 120 kilowatts hour per day with this surface, because that's what renewable energy means. So your first plan, you like beef. Your first plan was, I will put a cow on this pasture, and I checked it. For one cow, you need 4,000 square meters. So that means that you need a complete area just for one cow. There's not much else that you can do. You still have to put a house here too somewhere. So this is all you get. Everything should be there. Okay. Now we continue. So you have that 120 kilowatt hour per person per day. A third of that goes into mobility, transportation. A third goes to heating the house. Another third is for electricity, for lighting, whatever you want. Okay, so now if you want to produce such an amount of energy on this surface, you can divide, and you need 30 watt hours per square meter per day. And if you replace the day by 24 hours, you can also divide away the hour. So you need 1.25 watts per square meter continuously, 24 hours per day. So that's an average. 1.25, that's not a lot. That should be feasible. It's less than a light bulb. Okay. What could you do? You could put here energy crops. That's a kind of, okay, let's put everything. And what can I do with that? Well, an energy crop produces 0.5 watts per square meter. That won't do it. You need 1.25. So that's not going to work. But maybe you need a corner, because from time to time you need some gas for a car, or maybe some fuel for an airplane. So you will have to put some on your 4,000 square meter. But, well, if this doesn't work, maybe windmill. That's okay. You can put them, but you have to separate them a little bit. So this is a nice picture. So this one creates turbulence, and it's in the good weather conditions. You can see what the turbulence does. But you see there's a second and a third and a fourth. They are less efficient because due to all the turbulence. You can put one. Your neighbors will not like it, because your neighbors will also put one in their garden, of course. And so they will be full of, what does it produce? 2.5 watts per square meter. That could do it. That's twice the amount of energy that you need, but that means that we have to cover the complete island of the UK with windmills. Every soccer field needs one. Or you can pull things together and put a big one on. That's maybe not something we want, because you will have to cut down all the forests, because you cannot put them in a forest. And there are some areas where you have mountains and rocks, and that's also possible. So what else could you do? Well, put solar panels on your soccer field. And that's also 5 watts per square meter. That's great. That's 4 times what you need. But of course, below the soccer field, the solar panels, you cannot grow vegetables, and you also have to grow your own food. So that's a little bit difficult. And covering 1/4 or 25% of the UK with solar panels, it's not very nice. And you will have to cut down trees too in order to do that. So if you look at the same map as before, so the United Kingdom is here, so Mike is needing 1.25 watts, which is this line here. And then you see what you can generate if you cover the complete island with this kind of technology. It's clear that this is not going to do it. So the only conclusion is that climate change is actually moving much faster than we are. We do not know how to produce all that renewable energy. And that's one of the points I want to make. People say, well, we will replace all the gas-powered cars by electric cars. Fine. You cannot generate the renewables. So you will have to do either nuclear. That's a possibility. Nuclear produces 1,000 watts per square meter, so it's here. That's a great technology. It's almost no space, and so that's one thing you can do. Or maybe fusion in the future, if you could find that. Okay. So other things that you can do yourself. Yeah, you can upgrade your light bulbs. Here, there's still an opportunity to do that. That produces. This is here 1 metric ton. You can do something with the washing machine, wash your clothes in cold water, that's also fine. Eat plant-based diet, not too bad, almost 1 metric ton, become vegetarian. Then switch electric car for car-free, more than 1 ton. Buy green energy, still better. And then are the more inconvenient ones. Avoid 1 transatlantic flight. That's a little bit difficult for us, but I know you also have an American passport, Mike. So every time you fly to the US, you add 0.25 watts. That's 1.25 to 1.5. So that's quite a lot. If you go twice, you add even more. Live without a car, so saves you some more. And then this is the most confronting, is if you decide to have 1 fewer child, you save, well, not only the carbon footprint of the child, but also the grandchildren and the whole family tree coming after that. So that has been calculated like 60 metric tons per year of your life. So that's... Yeah, well, I have 2 more slides. So you can also buy an electric car, but Tesla needs a very big battery, and producing that battery also creates CO2. So before you have any effect on the climate, you need to drive for 8 years. So that's not another alternative. This is the plane. If you fly from Amsterdam to Paris, or the other way around, well, single trip. So this is the CO2 emission, so that's 100 kilogram. But you see a train is 10 times more efficient. So there's a good case if you want to save on the carbon budget to take the train. We did the experiment with HiPEAC. HiPEAC 4 produced 1,000 metric ton of CO2 just for all the meetings that we organize. That's a lot of carbon. If we would like to offset it, it costs us 20,000 euro. We might do this in the future. So say, well, okay, we organize a meeting, but we will offset all your carbon footprints just to travel to the meeting. That's the size of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide. And this is my last slide. I think these are the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17, and some of them, like gender equality. I have been searching for gender equality with the speakers here. I couldn't find it. There is some gender equality on the first row, but in the back of the room it's not so good. Affordable, clean energy is important. Decent work. Our technology is maybe not very good at that. Industry innovation, this is good. Reduced inequalities, it's also a thing. Climate action, these are the things. And it's important why I got this picture from the European Commission in the next framework program, which is called Horizon Europe. Everything will start from the Sustainable Development Goals. So we will have to motivate and explain how our projects will contribute to these goals. So I think we better start preparing ourselves in order to make sure that we contribute to these goals. So that's what I want to say. I probably used more time than was allocated, but we can do the questions during the coffee break if you want.
Thank you, Koen. Yes, we are already in the coffee break, as Koen mentioned. Okay, well. But if we want to ask any questions,
Mike.
Yes. and traveling and not having too many kids. What would you do?
I don't know.
Oh, terrible answer. Okay.
It's a lifestyle change, and it's very clear the politicians are not going to do anything because then they will not get re-elected. The companies will not do anything because the only concern is the next quarter. They want the bottom line support. So the only people who can do something are the scientists. They are independent, and the citizens, and the citizens because they care about the future planet for their kids. I think that's the only conclusion. And so telling people, look, this is what it is, and we will have to change. So I try to use the train more often, but I'm also taking the plane to go to work. So,
Can I?
Yes,
I
Matteo.
found you a little pessimist. You are normally optimist because
yes.
there are many solutions. We can try to do many things. For me, the worst thing is that there are metano in the North Pole, so
Yes.
it will increase the temperature 4 or 5 degrees. That will be the end. Okay.
Yes,
So I mean, you were proposing to put solar cell in England. Why you put them in the desert? You can generate energy for all the world. Okay. What about it? You had very good batteries. You were negative about the batteries. The batteries could solve 50% of the pollution in the big cities. Okay, there are many studies about that. Okay, so we need to be positive. We need to do the things that we do in the hotel we are. Please, if we don't do the room today, you said so. Everybody said no, don't make the.
Yes.
So there are many people working. And I think that we are going to solve this problem. I mean, the technology will solve this problem.
I
Okay.
hope you're
So,
right.
and you forgot one thing.
Yes.
Don't put things in the cloud. Okay.
Yeah, I will not put this in the cloud.
No. This is very important.
Yeah, but this is the world, and this is how it moves. So the average of the world is moving and going also in this direction. All countries are moving in this direction. So I believe that. Well, I hope you're right, Matteo, that we will find a solution.
Many conferences where the specialists say something different to you.
Yeah, okay, but these are also read a book of the solution. Okay, good.
So I like to be positive, but I can see a lot of reasons not to be positive. For example, in my country, the leadership have come out and said very strongly, there's no such thing as climate change. You know?
I know.
And at my university, the engineering students are encouraged to take their non-technical courses at the community colleges during the summer, where they can get an easy A and it costs less. And yet, the motto of my university is what starts here changes the world. It's not going to change the world if you start with this notion that you don't benefit at all. And no, I'd like to think positive. I hope Matteo is right, but I see too many.
I hope he's all right too.
What you've just started, I think, needs a very long discussion among everybody rather than just a few questions.
But I would advise everybody, read a book about Without the Hot Air, and if you don't have time to read the book, there's also a movie on YouTube. It takes 1 hour. It explains everything in great detail, but I'm going to stop here.
Thank